In this example, we know the ratio for tangent of theta. We know that cosine, if I knew the ratio of cosine, it would be greater than 0. And I want to find sine theta and secant theta. So I'm going to kind of draw a little picture here, and I suggest that for you when you get ready to do your problems in Delta Math. Draw a little picture. In this problem, it says that tangent is negative. So I've got to think about what quadrant that could be in. In this quadrant, both sine and cosine are positive. And a positive divided by a positive is a positive, so it can't be here. In this quadrant, cosine is negative and sine is positive. So since I have a negative and a positive, tangent is negative in this quadrant. So it could be in quadrant 2. Here I have a negative and a negative, so tangent would be positive, so it's not in quadrant 3. In quadrant 4, cosine is positive and sine is negative, so tangent's negative, so it could be in this quadrant. So I know that this angle either lies in the second quadrant or the fourth quadrant. But they tell me that cosine is greater than 0, so it means cosine is positive. Well, cosine's negative in this quadrant, so quadrant 2 is out. So the angle that I'm talking about lies in quadrant 4. So I'm talking about the angle that kind of goes around something like this. So I'm going to draw my angle in that looks like that. This angle is also going to have the same ordered pair as the angle that goes this direction. So I'm going to work with the triangle that is a right triangle that I can just draw a perpendicular line up to the x-axis. So it tells me that tangent is negative 5 over 4. So I know that the side opposite is negative 5. And I know that the side adjacent is 4, because tangent is the sine over the cosine. And in this case, I know the 5 part's negative and the 4 part's positive, because cosine is positive. So what I need to do next is find r. So I'm going to do 4 squared plus negative 5 squared equals r squared. So 16 plus 25 equals r squared. So r squared equals 41. So r is the square root of 41. Once I know r, that allows me to go ahead and find sine and secant. Sine is the y value over the r value, and our y value is negative 5. And the r is the square root of 41. And then we want to go ahead and fix that, make it proper. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 41 over the square root of 41. So I would say sine theta is negative 5 square roots of 41 over 41. Let's talk about secant theta. Secant is the inverse of cosine. I always think it's easier to find cosine first and then do the reciprocal. So I'm going to find cosine. Cosine would be 4 over square root 41 because it's the adjacent. So then that means that secant theta is going to be the square root of 41 over 4.